It's almost all good news today, so stick around and I'll tell you all about it. Hello my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop. Today is Thursday, September 1st. And with this new month, I think I have a new lease on life. Well, the doctor's report, I'm sure you're all waiting to hear, turned out pretty good. He doesn't think it's the heart, or at least he didn't see any indication that there was a problem with the heart. He said everything sounded real good. They did an EKG, and I didn't actually talk to the doctor about the EKG, but the fellow that did the EKG says he didn't see any anomalies. Everything looked normal to him. So I think we're doing pretty good there. They did want me to make an appointment for later in the month for an echocardiograph, which I guess is basically a sound reading of the heart. But that won't be till like September 28th. Now, they also took blood tests and things to see if there was anything that would show up in the blood tests. And I, did talk to them about the tick illness thing. And so they're going to run the test for that as well. So we'll just have to wait and see where all that goes. But as far as I can tell right now, I'll live through today. Okay, got a gift from someone. And it came from Italy, but I think the person that sent it is probably this fellow here that I'm going to tell you about, and he's in California. His name is R.J. Bob Lee, I think. That's who I'm thinking sent it. The reason I can't tell you for sure is because everything's written in Italian except for that name. And it did come from Cremona, Italy. So what did we get? Well, I got another finger plane. Look at that little tiny thing. Here was my previous gift from another viewer. Look how small it is. This is an 8mm. I'm not sure how many millimeters this is, but I'm going to guess 6. I didn't measure it, but you can see it's quite a bit smaller. Or it is actually, well, it's more narrow than the other way. It's really narrow. It's not so much smaller lengthwise, although it is smaller lengthwise too. So let me just go ahead and measure that and see how many millimeters it is. And that says 5.95, so we'll call it 6 millimeters. So I got an 8mm, which was my previous smallest, and like I said, I found this incredibly handy. And now we have his 6mm from Mr. Bob Lee, so thank you, Bob. He also sprung for the tooth blade, so that I have the regular blade, which is in here, and the tooth blade. So I'm anxious to try these out on some upcoming project. I don't know what that'll be, but I guarantee you we'll be trying it out to see how well it works. Didn't expect it, but I sure do appreciate it. Thank you very much, Bob. Regarding the Bobcat, that's more good news. I purchased an online service manual for the Bobcat, started going through that and looking up all the things that I suspect are an issue. And, it's a good manual and all that. I mean, it's very detailed, but I couldn't find anything on the electronics of that particular switch and where it went. So I just gave up on that. I started using my own logic. I went up there and of course I tested the switch for power, and it was getting no power. And of course I tested all the fuses that I knew where they were, the ones that I could find, and I couldn't find a fuse that was bad. Now there is possibility there's an inline fuse in that line, but I could not find an inline fuse anywhere by just looking around. So I thought, well, I've got to cut my losses here. I can't figure out where this line goes because it goes through tunnels and all kinds of stuff, and it's greasy, and then it's in big wire clusters, and just trying to track it down is almost impossible. I mean, it's really hard to explain unless you were here to see it. But you can bet on it, it's pretty much impossible to trace it down. Otherwise, I'd have done that. So I just gave up. And if you know anything about this kind of equipment, almost all equipment has extra plugs. In other words, like there'll be a wiring harness and there'll be a plug that comes out of it and it goes nowhere. And then they're going down and there'll be more plugs and they plug into stuff or whatever. But there'll be plugs that have no apparent use. Well, that's the way it was up in the switch panel. When I took the switch panel off, there was a couple of plugs up there that weren't being used at all. So I turned the key on and I tested to see which one of those terminals in one of those unused plugs came on when the key came on. Well, I found one, so I just ran a jumper from there over to the power post on the switch that I needed to work. Bingo, solved the problem. My arms raise up, they close, they raise up, they close. So I'm considering it fixed. It's my own fix. It's not the quote-unquote Bobcat fix, but it's a fix that seems to work just fine. And I think it's perfectly safe to do it that way. What I did was I made myself a little jumper wire with a spade connector on each end and then just pushed them down into the appropriate slot. And so I didn't really have to modify anything on the Bobcat itself. In other words, if you just pull that jumper off, everything's exactly like it's always been. So it's really a very simple fix. After I got out of the doctor's office yesterday, I went running around town trying to find prices on a culvert pipe to put on that pond. And it turned out that the big box store Menards had the cheapest one by far. And I thought an 8-inch culvert would be plenty big, and they come in 20-foot lengths. And then, believe it or not, that's only $79. I was really amazed. Well, it's actually $80, $79.99. Amazed that it was that inexpensive, actually. Now, it wasn't that inexpensive in the first place I checked. That same pipe was about $170. So it's, considerably cheaper. That's the name of that tune, so I'll be trying to get that pipe today and getting that installed. So I'm not going to get a lot done here in the shop again. If you'll join me tomorrow morning for Shop Talk at 8 o'clock, I promise we'll find something music related to talk about. I got to get busy and fill the orders from the website. Thank you all for listening to me. We'll see you tomorrow morning for Shop Talk, 8 o'clock.